projection and belief and what we project onto it, which I think is important. So when we come to the history and what we actually know and we don't know, this Gospel of Mary I do think is quite important. And I think it's interesting to look at what Yeshua said to her. Blessed are you that you did not waver at the sight of me, for where the mind is, there is the treasure. So, you know, I think she was a psychic, she was a visionary, she trusted her visions, she was honoured and loved, greater than the other disciples, perhaps because she was this visionary. And it gave her the flexibility to understand and work with energy and to empathise with people. Maybe she was a healer and she understood the movement of energy. Maybe she held Jesus' soul through the crucifixion, if it happened. And maybe she helped bring him back to life if he survived that. Who knows? We won't ever know. But we've got this archetype, and we've been left with this muted archetype because of the church, which was defined to keep people subdued, especially women. And, you know, probably everybody here knows about, you know, the Constantine and Augustine and how the Bible was formed and everything. And whereas I think it came to a situation where it stopped some of the sacrifices of people that were going on in that time. And that's quite a scary thing, to think that people were being sacrificed to lions in ancient Rome and things like that for their beliefs. It just diluted that truth of the essence. But it's through that archetypes that we begin to get that hint of a bigger truth. And in studying other religions, we get a bigger picture of the possibilities of spirituality. So now I'm going to skip, whiz forwards to to this. So speculations. We talked a bit about channeled material this morning, and there are some books which I appear to have lost, but are here somewhere. What did I do with them? I've got them behind me. You know, when I first went to Rennes-le-Ban and Rennes-le-Château last year, 3 years ago, with a group of 108 people, and we were part of what we felt at the time to be an activation of the Magdalene energies. And we went to a place that we were told was the burial place of Christ and Mary Magdalene. And from that, I began to be absolutely fascinated by the area, because the area is so beautiful. I mean, it's absolutely the most stunningly beautiful scenery. And I can show you some pictures, but I can't do them on this computer, unfortunately. And I went from there to stay with Anaya Sophia, who is a priestess of Sophia, I think she calls herself. She had a bed and breakfast called AmmaPrema, and she had this book. It's this one, Anna, the Voice of the Magdalenes. And this book absolutely blew my mind.
Sorry, what's it called?
Anna, the Voice of the Magdalenes. And it's by a woman called Claire Hartson, who previously channeled a book from Anna, who, and she sort of is a channel of Anna, who she says was the mother of Mother Mary. And this was a result of a lot of regressions that she did with 2 other people in America, and tells this incredible story, really, about really a group of souls that incarnated together, maybe about 3,000 souls. She talks about she and this other book as well, well, there are 5 books actually in this series, which is Stuart Wilson and Joan Apprentice, which I'll talk about in a minute, talk about an Essene brotherhood that prepared the ground for Yeshua's coming. And they were organised into different communities, so that the Essenes that have come down to us in history that you talked about were one part of the Essenes. They were like the extreme monk male order. But there were also householder communities that related to them, and there were merchant Essenes who bridged into the merchant communities in the Jewish merchant community and could provide safe houses. and that Joseph of Arimathea was probably one of these sort of merchant bridges, as it were. So he was sort of seen by intuition or attained to some ceremony. And that makes a lot of sense today, if you think about it. That's very similar to what we might find today, that idea. And you know, my visions before had been of Mary Magdalene arriving on her own in St Marie de la Mer, because I hadn't really done the research. And actually then, the more I researched it, the more I realised that actually this was a family that came. It was a lot of people on ships came, and some of them maybe not even on the same ship. They may have come for the next year, 2 years. And you know, they're coming to fascist France. And I say fascist France because, you know, it had been invaded by the Romans. The Romans were mining in that area, you know, and, you know, if you didn't have the right bits of paper or what have you, I mean, we know what it was like under the Nazis. You know, it must have been really scary for people, you know, and really scary for people who had been identified with this radical, weird set of teachings in Israel. So that was really quite a revelation for me, and I felt, particularly when I went to Alais-les-Bains, that there was the residue of a Jewish community there. And actually that was later, I got that on the inner plains, and then somebody actually confirmed it, and there's an abbey there that was built there. So, as I say, this book here is the other one that I then came to after reading Anna. And when I discovered there are 5 books in this series written by Stuart Wilson and Joanna Apprentice. And Joanna Apprentice has since become a close friend of mine. I went to have a past life reading with her. She does past life regressions. And she set up a centre in about 1987, I think it was, in Devon, the Starlight Centre, and had all sorts of people through it. A lot of crystal skulls came through it, including the Anna Mitchell Hedges crystal skull. And they started doing these past life regressions with all sorts of different people. And as they did them, lots of other people came forward and said, hey, I want to know things. And when I read it, I thought, I've got to go have a past life regression with this woman and see, because I had some stuff I wanted to check out and sort out. And I went for an hour and a half and ended up spending 7 hours with her in this amazing place, which she no longer owns. And she's an amazing woman. She's now about 77. And she and I are organising a conference in Glastonbury in October with a woman from America who's a psychic who carries the vibration of Mary Magdalene. So it's going to be a very interesting coming together, because she knows hundreds of people who have had past lives in this family. And they've gone back independently, completely independently. And all of them are telling little bits of the jigsaw, little big pieces, so that they could develop a coherent narrative. And at the back of this book, and I'll pass it round, they've actually been able to map out some family trees of Jesus and Joseph and Mary from the different things that different people said. So, I don't know, would you be able to read that? No, I'll show it to you. I'll pass it around and you can see. So, you know, but I mean, when I started to read these books, I mean, I'm a bit of a Gemini. I don't read books cover to cover. I do a bit of this and a bit of that. I read all 5 books cover to cover, boom, 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 because the simplicity of some of the teachings is so superb that they have provided a consistent narrative, a consistent way of acting, a way of being for our time, in a way that actually nothing I've read in the New Age has been as good. And some of that came through a channeling through an angel called Alariel, who I've also had come to me, and he is so clear, so amazing to hear. So some of the things that have come through these books. Joseph of Arimathea was Mary's elder brother. I just said that. his early years probably in Egypt. We know that from the Bible. But then what did he learn there? What was he taught there?
When you say Mary's elder brother, which Mary do you mean?
Mother Mary. Mother Mary. Joseph of Arimathea probably took the young Jesus on some travels around the globe. Tricia McCannon in her books talks about the evidence that suggests that he came to England when Jesus was 7, and also that Jesus came back when he was 14. And, you know, if he was a wealthy merchant and he had a lot of ships, and there's a book I read about his son and Jesus playing together in Cyprus, which was a channeled book from the son of Joseph of Arimathea, where Joseph of Arimathea had lands apparently in Cyprus. You know, and if he had a fleet of ships, we're talking about, you know, the equivalent of the Onassis of the time, you know, a very wealthy man with a lot of ships. And he was able to orchestrate a lot of the movement afterwards and before of, you know, what happened. And that's from the Wilson and Apprentice book. Did Jesus survive the crucifixion? Did he exist? I would say that the crucifixion probably did happen, because I don't think that a movement that has gone all the way around the world, like Christianity, would have gone all around the world without him fulfilling the prophecy. And don't forget that that had been sort of prophesied. So in the Old Testament it's prophesied that this Saviour is going to come and, you know, be taken. So I think the crucifixion probably happened. Whether or not he survived, I don't know. I think he definitely appeared to Mary afterwards, and I think they had a very sacred connection, very much like what you said this morning, that you know, they had a very special mission together as part of a lot of as part of the leadership of a lot of souls who came. Maybe there's a book by Flo Avila Magdalene called I Remember Union, which is a very beautiful book, and I think that suggests that she held his energy through the crucifixion. Again, it's a channeled book, and I won't go into that. And I was talking to my friend Sam Gassine the other day, and we were talking about this, and we were talking about the foot anointing, and gold had come up, and we did a bit of research, and apparently monotonic gold, which is a liquid form of gold, and which might have even been the gold, frankincense and myrrh, you know, that came at the birth of Christ. This monotonic gold may have been what Sam was getting really strong feelings that was what was anointed on the feet, because there was something about doing that meant that he could survive the crucifixion. But hey ho. There's all these pictures from the 13th century, which I think we're going to see probably more about, you know, from, there was a secret society, people say, I think from the 10th century of, not the Priests of Zion, but something like that, but where a lot of the artists connected to, and Leonardo da Vinci is said to have been part of the Order of Zion, I think it is. And so a lot of the medieval paintings, you know, give clues, if you like, to the myths of the Magdalene and various symbology and what have you. Because it's so late, I don't know that we can take it as being very, you know, it's again part of that realm of projection. So, hey ho, whatever. And there's also a lot of modern people nowadays who talk about Mary Magdalene as having been a priestess of Isis, and Mother Mary as having been a priestess of Isis. And I think in the first book by Claire Hartsong, this woman, Anna, that suggests that the women, a lot of the women had had training in the temples in Alexandria, and that because of that training they knew certain ways of holding the soul through this great pain and thing. Mother Mary is often described as Mariana, which I think is to distinguish her. And I think that a lot of the Egyptian wisdom is probably very accurate. So what we know possibly is, and definitely the power of these spots that I've been to in the south of France really suggests that there was a definite movement after the crucifixion, because again, I don't think there would have, that story would be so profound. And although it's been so amazingly layered, you know, there's stories about Mary Magdalene landing at Marseille, stories of Marie de la Mer, possibly Perpignan. There's another book I have here, A Sacred Journey by this woman, Val Wynyard, and she's done a lot of research, and she self-publishes, so I think you can get it off her website. But she says that in her view, Yeshua and Mary alive arrived in Perpignan and came across to Bucharest. And I'm going to just show you some maps here. So this is St. Baume. I don't know if you can, I've got the pointer on it now, I'll come up here. So, whoops. This is St. Maximin here. So you can see there's Marseille. So it's quite a long way over, which is, if you're doing a pilgrimage for people, you need them really to fly into Marseille if they're going to come up to here, because it's quite near. And then Marie de la Mer is right over here, which we'll come over to the next thing. So it's quite a long way. I will just talk a little bit about St. Baume's Cave. That's Marie de la Mer. You see the sort of, yeah. So, and then Perpignan is down south of Narbonne, and over there would be Bucharest. And St. Marie de la Mer is really just surrounded by Camargue and white horses, and it's and lots of insects and flamingos. So it's a very lovely place. The sanctuary there is very beautiful. I was going to pass on my phone because it's actually got some of the pictures on it, and I've now succeeded in losing my phone. There it is. I had it close to me and left it. So, what have we got here? Let's find the phone. So, let's come around. This is where the cave of St. Baume is, in those hills. And interesting, a lot of the places I've just been have got escarpments. You've probably been here. You probably know. This is the thing. So it's a huge climb up there. It's another sort of picture of it as we're going by, coming up to it. And the walk up is through this forest. And it was a miracle. I got up there. I just started walking and did a lot of medicine Buddha mantras and managed to get up with the aid of a stick. It's amazingly quiet and amazingly beautiful. As you go up,
and this is the cave.
This is the cave of St. Baume, where they say that she lived.
And where's that on the map?
That's what it looks like from the side. As you're coming up, it's built into this little monastery, built from the side of.
What did you say the significance of the cave was?
Well, they say Mary Magdalene lived there and taught there, and that she died there, and there are relics there. It was held by the Dominicans for a long time, and the Franciscans, and then the Dominicans, I think. And if anybody wants to see these more, that is a picture of the cave, and you can see it from the inside, looking out. Huge, huge cave. To be honest, as a sound healer, I went in there, I was clearing all the time. Because one of the problems with spiritual tourism is that what happens is people go and they do all their stuff, and you know, they come with their projections and their worries, and nobody's clearing the energy. And I used to live very near Wells Cathedral, and it was interesting because every January they'd clear the whole cathedral of all the chairs, and for a month, so you could just see the architecture. And they used to do this amazing clearing ceremony where they had people come in and chant, and they were walking around with frankincense all the time. And somewhere the Church of England knew how to do that, how to clear the church energetically. People here don't know how to do that, I can tell you.
Some of us do.
Some of you do. Some of you do, yeah. But you know, a lot of these places get very layered. That's actually the relics, which you can't really see very well.
What are the relics? What do they?
I have forgotten, to be honest, what these particular relics are. I think they're meant to be some of Mary Magdalene's bones, because there's a thing with Essenes which I haven't quite got in my head. That
We'll
bones
learn
were
tomorrow.
found in one place, then some of them were shared. And I can't remember if they were found down there and brought up to Essenes, or if they were found in Essenes and shared at St Mary de la Mer at St Rome.
All will be revealed tomorrow.
I mean, the relics there are pretty. There is a little energy around them. And there's beautiful windows there, which I'll pass the phone around and have a look. The view from there is absolutely stunning. If I can find it. That's the view looking out from the cave.
I'll pass it around.
So,
You can.
you're welcome. Anyway, so it's definitely worth a visit. And I should go back actually, because what I'm talking about is here, St Bone. Is in the valley from St Bone, there is a basilica of St Maximine. I'm sorry to those of you that know this already, but in this basilica of St Maximine, there's the beautiful skull that we saw. And I was saying it's in this tiny crypt about the size of this corner, and you go down and there's glass all the way around, and then there's a grill, and then behind the grill is this absolutely tiny little skull of this very scared little woman. She looks very scared. It's like she's going, ah! And I wanted to cry, to be honest, when I went in there, because I felt she was just so trapped with all this sort of heavy gold around her, and she was just trapped. And but it's also very powerful. So whether she was just a very, very devout woman who's been honoured in this way, she's providing a service. But in a way it doesn't matter, because Mary Magdalene can come through anything. And that's really what I got from visiting these places, that it doesn't really matter what the truth was, because the power of Mary Magdalene and Yeshua is so much greater. St Marie de la Mer is amazing. I was just blown away by St Marie de la Mer. The energy there is kept absolutely beautifully by the people who hold the sanctuary. And I mean, when I dropped into the silence there, I had all sorts of downloads, and it was just very precious and very special for me. And I have no doubt that the story is true there. So, right, I'm just going to say it'll come to an end in a minute, because we'll do a bit of a ceremony. So the Marriage Lineage teachings from this book I passed around, the Magdalene lineage teachings, are really saying Mary Magdalene was an apostle, and now we know the Pope agrees, hooray. They say that from their past life research, they found out that there were about 144 people very, very close in to Jesus, and that there were 12 circles of 12, 6 female and 6 male. And they were spreading the words, basically the faith and the divine flame within, equality and respect between men and women, 12 principles, which I'll come on to, manifesting the power of healing, living simply in very supportive communities with the use of herbs and healing, and bringing in the light. And I'll tell you about that as well. So these 12 principles were actually channeled by a friend of mine called Solariel's St. Mary Michael, who has been channeling since the 70s. She's now about 85. And she brought these in about 2013. And when she brought them in, I was really blown away by them, because I felt that here was what in yoga I would call the yamas and the niyamas. You know, it was this value system, this anchoring of a value system, which was a bit missing and very fuzzy in Jesus' esoteric teaching. And what she taught me is that this is a movement from harmlessness up to grace. And it's a movement vibrationally from the third dimension to the fifth dimension. So it's actually like a spiral of energy. And even if you just chanted these 12 words from a place of heart, it will move you instantaneously into the fifth dimension. And for me, it's an absolute core teaching because it's one of the missing things that really need to be out there. And I don't think she's actually published it, but she did it. And when I was in Glastonbury in 2012, Daisy, at the Daisy Centre, and myself, Daisy had guidance that we had to do this every day. We had to do one of the principles every day right up until the 2012. So we were anchoring these principles in Glastonbury for the 12 days before 2012. So you start from harmlessness, which is something which is obviously going through all the major religions. It's going particularly through Gandhian principles. It's going through yoga, niyamas and yamas. Right action. We actually all know what right action is. Most of us know what right action is. We've got conscience, most of us. Love. You can't really have forgiveness, true forgiveness, until you've got love in place. Compassion allows you to take that forgiveness and that love out into the world. Truth, the truth being that we are all one. We are all one energy. Balance, harmony, gratitude, peace and bliss, grace. Now when you get to that vibration of grace, you begin to approach the kind of energy that you begin to find in this area of the five-pointed star down in the south, around Rennes Chateau and Bucharest. And all I can say is it feels like there's grace in the land. It's more like a fifth dimensional energy of grace. And so for me, as I say, this is quite a core teaching. So I talked a bit about this. And I'm going to share with you something which I haven't really shared with other people because it's quite a personal thing. I didn't know when I went to Rennes Chateau this time that I was going to go on the journey. I didn't know what was going to be revealed or what have you, and I definitely had felt this five-pointed star in the landscape was a bit of a head trip, to be honest. I'd seen it in a book ages ago. It's Henry Cromwell's idea. I think I've got it here actually. Yeah, I've got this next slide. This is the five-pointed star. And right at the top, here at the top, this is a chapel up here, or very near a chapel called Saint Salvire. And when I went there, I just cried because it was like I'd come home, really. And while I was there, I was given this very simple teaching and told that this was some of the teaching that was shared in these circles, that this was a place where the women's circle had met, you know, to sew, to pray, to do all sorts of things. And this teaching, I'll come back to before, and it's very interesting what you said about the Aleph. I'm going to move over here so that it's thing. So at the top of the five-pointed star, you have inviting the light, grounding the light, which is interesting, the Aleph, which I hadn't realised before. Being the light, sharing the light, releasing the light. Now, it's such a simple teaching, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I think Mary Magdalene and the teachings of the women were very simple. Very, very simple. You know, they were talking to simple people. You know, that's something that's easy to remember, isn't it? You've got a star. And, you know, one can hypothesise, and for a variety of reasons. For me, that five-pointed star has links with the Hathor energy from Venus and a Venus star, and I could go into that in some depth, but I won't at the moment. But, you know, this is how you teach a child to do healing. And any of you who are healers know that you can actually teach somebody to do healing in 5 minutes. You know, it could be taught in every one of our schools. There is no reason why we are not teaching children how to heal. You know, it's not a difficult thing. You ground and you connect and you invite the light. And you ground the light and you bring that up to the heart. And you allow the energy to come through your hands and you share it. And then you just release it and with thanks. This is such a simple teaching. This is all Jesus was doing. It's not, you know, it's not rocket science. It's the heart. It's the power of the heart to heal. It's what we've been told in the Bible. It's there in the Bible. It's there in this beautiful Song of Solomon. It's not a big thing. Unfortunately, we're living in an age where this, you know, we've now got supposedly 144,000 light workers come back to teach, and all of us are teaching it. Probably all of us in this room are teaching it. All of us are doing it. It's not rocket science. What is important is that we take that archetype of Mary Magdalene and we step up. And we realise that now is the time that we go for the peace. Now is the time that we step up and share, which is really why I'm here now. And I just want to end with this: respect is every woman's God-given right. And when she claims her rightful power and majesty as Adi Shakti, the manifesting power of creation, she becomes invincible. And that's from Yogi Bhajan, who founded Kundalini Yoga, and some of the most beautiful bhajans around. And just to say, a lot of people say that Mary Magdalene and Yeshua have gone through a lot of initiations on the inner planes, that they're now ascended masters, ascended mysteries, and that you would see them now as Sananda and Lady Nada. And definitely I've been involved in a ceremony in Wales where we brought down the Lady Nada energy into this place where Mary Magdalene was in West Wales, Angel Mountain. So we're now activating this, helping people to move on from that feeling of being a victim, from being damaged goods, from being shamed, guilty, lacking in confidence, oppressed, to being confident people who speak their truths, harmlessly, in right action, with forgiveness. People who are creative, people who are fulfilled, appreciative, and most importantly, positive. Because when we start naming the negative, that's what we bring in. That we're able to let go and completely surrender. And we learn that from the Guru teachings in the East, how to surrender, how to come into that space of absolute devotion to the divine, whatever that is. Acceptance that actually we can't do it on our own. It's not one of us standing up. We're all working together. Each one of us is important. And that we have to learn to be present, to be in presence, without any kind of judgment, able to be self-reliant, self-activating, able to enter and sustain harmonic partnerships where that's appropriate, and being spiritually masterful. And that really is the end of what I want to say at this time. What I learned on this pilgrimage: mystery exists. It's always going to exist. We love a mystery. We love the head truth of it. It's great. There are places that the family likely lived. She was probably here, maybe with Yeshua. Her life was simple. There was freedom. Men and women are equal. There may have been many Marys and Yeshuas. It was a title. Lots of stories from lots of different people. But there are places where you can